Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pre-Snap Read. I'm your host, Alan Squatrito, and in today's edition of Pre-Snap Read, we're going to be going over fantasy football, who to draft, who not to draft, the strategies you should take with you when you step into the draft room. Now, the goal is to get you into playoff contention, set you up for success. Now, getting into my credibility briefly, I'm in 8 leagues a year. I always win positive money, or else I would not be talking to you right now. I drafted Peyton Hillis in all of my leagues last year except for one, a.k.a. the Great White Water Buffalo, for those of you who are fans of Peyton Hillis. He's also on the cover of this year's Madden. And I would pay people to pick up my shifts every Sunday at work so I could watch football day and night. Now, moving on, is fantasy football luck and any given Sunday? Of course it is. It's any given Sunday in the NFL world, so therefore that transfers over to any given Sunday in the fantasy football world. One of my buddies last year drafted drunk the whole draft. His draft was so awful. He drafted Benjarvis Green-Ellis in the 4th round. Everyone was making fun of him, laughing at him like this kid doesn't know what he's doing. And then he picked Michael Vick up on the waivers and won the Super Bowl, won all the money, and it's he who laughed last. So that was good for him. Yes, it takes a little luck. Athletes go on runs at different times. Remember D'Angelo Williams in 2008, weeks like 13, 14, 15. He had like 4 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown. People get injured. You pick people up on the waivers, as that previous example. So it is a little bit of luck, but it also takes a lot of skill too, especially to minimize mistakes and set you up for success. And that's why we are here. So, number one, when drafting fantasy players, you want to cater to the scoring rubric of that actual league. This is common sense. We won't get into that too much. Is it a point per reception league, touchdown heavy? Is there certain positions that get more points for a touchdown? Number 2, you got to draft individual players that change how defenses game plan. These are your tier number 1 guys, the MVP players of their team, the players that carry their team. For example, Drew Brees is a quarterback. He's the most valuable player for the Saints. Adrian Peterson is a running back. He's the most valuable player for the Vikings. Calvin Johnson is a wide receiver. He's the most valuable player for the Detroit Lions. Now, these are your tier number 1 guys. Now, how many tier number 1 guys are there in each position? This changes throughout the year, throughout the season. For each season, this changes. Now, to me, Calvin Johnson is a tier number 1 guy. Andre Johnson is a tier number 1 wide receiver. Greg Jennings even. But Greg Jennings, there's so many options on the Green Bay Packers that Greg Jennings might not come through for your fantasy football team each and every week. So I feel as though Calvin Johnson and Andre Johnson are still ahead of Greg Jennings because they have to get the ball. It's funny, too, in a lot of different rankings like NFL.com, ESPN.com, Calvin Johnson isn't even in the top 3 wide receivers, which blows my mind. But we're not going to get into that too much right now. I just wanted to give you some insight on my belief, which is tier 1 wide receivers run thin this year, opposed to tier 1 quarterbacks, running backs, and tight ends. Now, finally, when you step inside the draft room, very important information you should take with you. Write down all of the picks. You got to write down everybody's picks. I hope you do this already, but if not, now you know. I got a great example for you as to why you should write down every pick. Say if you are pick 10, you're in a 12-team league, and it's coming up to you in the draft. You are in a desperate need of a tight end. Pick 11 and pick 12 already have their tight ends. You know that because you wrote that down. Therefore, please do yourself a favor and do not draft a tight end when it's coming up to you. Draft that tight end when it comes back down to you. You're more than likely you're going to land that tight end that you were shooting for. I know you feel a little bit desperate at that time, but have no fear, you will most likely land your guy. When we come back, we're going to do a recap of the latest news around the league, and we're going to break down the NFC East. And this is Pre-Snap Read.